Welcome to Raving Ryan. I'm your host, Ryan Anastasio. I have a very special guest here today, Congresswoman from Connecticut's 3rd District, Rosa Delauro. Congresswoman, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Raving Ryan? It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you also. So we're going to start off with some state issues that have been in the news lately. The start of 2016 has not been good for businesses in Connecticut. General Electric announced to be moving its Fairfield headquarters to move to Boston. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a huge loss for the state and and the country also. Mm-hmm. So, GE will be leaving, but what can you do on the federal level to make sure no other businesses will be leaving?
Well, first of all, I think that, GE made their decision to leave, probably based on a number of issues. But the recent news has shown that, there's several hundred jobs are going to stay behind here in Connecticut, which is a good thing. So I think there isn't the loss of jobs that I think folks anticipated, which is a good thing. But we do have to have a good climate for businesses. And at the federal level, I think one of the things that we can do is to use the tax code. We ought to be able to provide incentives and tax incentives for people to be able to stay here. Today we also have a number of companies that take their jobs overseas, and we need to not reward them for doing that, but we need to reward people for keeping their jobs here at home and here in Connecticut.
And moving on to a different topic, gun control has been in the news a lot. Right. It has hit us here in Connecticut with the Sandy Hook tragedy. But every week we seem to have a new tragedy happening. Mm-hmm. But what can we do so our ancestors won't have to deal with this anymore?
Well, look, you are so right in the reflection of the number of lives lost every single day because of gun violence. And in our particular tragedy in Connecticut with Sandy Hook, with the slaughter of innocents, these were babies, and the adults who were trying to protect these children. But we do need to look at tightening up where the loopholes are with background checks. In my view, we need to ban assault weapons and rifles. We ought to ban the clips, these magazines that allow you to shoot off hundreds of rounds of ammunition in a very short period of time. And so I think that the public today really is looking to the Congress to do something about the gun violence.
Yeah, and also every week there seems to be a terrorist attack also in the Middle East and Europe. ISIS and many other groups have been constantly attacking there. But what do you think you guys can do in Congress to stop all these terrorist attacks from happening?
Well, it's a very complex issue, and I think the President and the Congress have been, looking at ways in which you can deter the violence and the terrorism but it's coming from many different countries around the world, and working with their governments in unity. We can't do this by ourselves. We have to do it in coalition with other countries to try to stem the tide of violence.
A few months ago, you were part of President Obama's delegation to Cuba. Cuba and the U.S. have had over a 50-year trade embargo. But can you tell us a little bit about your trip and what you got out of it?
Sure. I was very excited to be asked to be part of the presidential trip to Cuba. I've been to Cuba 4 times. Yeah. I was there in 2007 when I brought a group of both Democrats and Republican members of the House of Representatives to Cuba to talk about trade and agricultural trade. Cuba imports about 80% of its food, and they certainly, our farmers, our agriculture interests here could benefit by our lifting that trade embargo with Cuba. I then went to talk to young women who are involved in small businesses and creating small businesses there. And then I went on another occasion to talk about the relationship between Cuba and the United States and how we could foster a thawing of those relationships, and then have the honor of being with the president. But I've always believed that we should lift that embargo, and that we ought to, I think after 50 years, I think we've determined that it hasn't worked. And so I was really grateful for the president and for his policy of moving forward. It was really very poignant to see the Cuban and the American flag flying side by side. Had an opportunity to meet Raul Castro. The president delivered a wonderful speech. The president cannot lift the embargo, only the Congress can do that. One of the great things I had the opportunity to do was to go to the baseball game where I saw Derek Jeter and Joe Torre, and I'm a big New York Yankees fan, so I'm very excited about that. It was terrific. It's great.
And do you think we're going to start seeing some businesses, even in Connecticut, going there? Because I know there's like 5% of people have internet there, so that's a big issue.
Very big. And one of the folks on our trip was my colleague, whose name is Anna Eshu. She's from Silicon Valley in California, and that's the hub of the IT community. And they understand that they need to do that, but there are businesses that are already going. We met with business people when we were there, U.S. business men and women, who were there to talk about how to, how to start up the businesses there and what would the advantages be for them. So it's a very, very exciting prospect to see Cuba open up. It's a beautiful country.
Yeah, looks very nice. Now moving on to a different topic. Rosa, you've been in Congress for over about 25 years now, and a lot of Republicans are calling for term limits. Can you explain to me why we shouldn't have term limits?
Certainly. This is it's an ebb and flow on the issue of term limits. People, call for this every now and again. And look, the question is whether or not you are continue to be effective. And the public will make a judgment as to whether or not you're effective. Look, we don't ask, we don't term limit doctors, we don't term limit lawyers, we don't term limit, other professions in this way. But for instance, if you some people have said, well, you should serve 4 years or 6 years or so forth. It takes a while to understand how the process works.
Okay, the 2016 presidential race has been very interesting. I know you've endorsed Hillary Clinton. I know you were campaigning with her here. Can you tell me what appeals to the secretary about you?
Certainly. First of all, I know the secretary for a very long time, and for her entire professional career, she has been engaged in an issue that's very near and dear to my heart, and that's what the economic security of working families and children. When she finished at the Yale Law School, she went to work for the Children's Defense Fund. She didn't go to a high-priced lobbyist organization. As she fought for the Children's Health Insurance Program. When she was in the Senate as the First Lady of Arkansas, she championed early childhood education for our kids. She understands that today that the biggest problem that people are having is that they're in jobs that don't pay them enough money. And so that she is looking at how we make sure that people do have the opportunity for a good paying job, raising the minimum wage, looking at equal pay for equal work, men and women in the same job.
And there have been controversies with the Benghazi attack and the emails. Do you think this will affect her in the long run?
I think that I actually went to the Benghazi hearings, not the whole 11 hours, but I was there for 2 or 3 hours. And the secretary answered every single question. And there hasn't been anywhere where there has been demonstrated that she was either derelict in her duty or didn't, hasn't talked very openly about what happened and what didn't happen there. So, and the same is true with the email efforts as well. So, I think people will continue to bring it up, but I think that people in this country are really focused on what our economy looks like, where their jobs are going to be, where their kids' jobs are going to be. Can they afford to send their kids to school?
And I know you're a superdelegate. Some of our viewers are a little confused about the process. Can you explain it a little bit better for us?
Oh, well, we had for a while where the nominees were selected by party elders, and so what the superdelegate process is a way in which to try to balance the popular vote and looking at people who hold either an elected office or some sort of a party affiliation to be able to bring their interests to bear on the process.
And I'm on the Republican side. It's also been very interesting. Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee.
Right.
Can you tell me what you think of Donald Trump and what a Trump presidency would look like?
Well, I can't tell you what a Trump presidency will look
Yeah.
like. I don't think anyone can. I'm not sure Donald Trump knows what a Trump presidency will look like. But look, I believe that anyone who aspires to the highest office in the land, and I take great pride in the office of the presidency of the United States, and it really, party doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a Democrat, and I want to elect a Democrat, but I've had the opportunity to be at the White House, and I have met with George H.W. Bush. I met with George Bush, with Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and you get a great sense of our history and the greatness of this nation. And anyone who aspires to that office needs to understand that the role is to try to help to unite the country, to bring people together, to legislate on behalf of everybody's interest, to recognize that the great strength of the United States lies in its diversity.
And now moving on to a different topic that's in Congress. Congress has an approval rating of below 10%. A lot of Americans are very mad about that. They're not getting anything done. Why do you think this is happening in Congress?
Well, I think what they are witnessing today is a Congress that is dysfunctional in many ways. And people are struggling in their lives. And they're looking at where the federal government can't do everything, but it plays a role. It plays a role in education, in healthcare, in manufacturing, in business, wherever it is. We don't do everything, but we help to create bridges for people who are unemployed, with unemployment insurance, until they can get back on their feet and be able to have a job. And I think people today are feeling that, quite frankly, that they're on their own, that the kind of stalemate in the Congress is not helping them. And so they're feeling that they're going it alone, and they're very cynical about it, which is so unfortunate, because, when John F. Kennedy was president, 75% of the American people believed that government was on their side, that government was going to help to do something for them. And one of the problems is in the Congress is there's a very small group of people, but who are exercising great power in really pretty much saying no to everything.
But I want to move on to a different topic, and it's the Olympics is about 80 days away now, and there's been a lot of problems in Brazil with their president and obviously the Zika virus. Right. Do you think there's going to be a problem in the Olympics?
Well, I'll tell you what my concern is overall. I'm not going to engage in what the government has done with their own elections. They made a decision. But I spent a lot of time on the issue of the Zika virus. And again, I think the majority, I think the Republicans in the Congress are really playing fast and loose with public safety, which has to do with the Olympics, but has to do domestically. Right now, we have over 1,300 cases, I believe, of Zika in the United States. And we're coming into the summer months where those Gulf states are going to see the influx of the Aedes aegypti mosquito. The scientists are telling us, I was at a hearing yesterday where the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Fauci from Infectious Diseases, the CDC, Center for Disease Control, they are saying the window is closing on our doing something about this. And the president requested in February $1.9 billion in order to address the issue, to develop a vaccine, to develop diagnostic analyses, to help to deal with trying to control the mosquitoes. And the Republican majority has refused to move and budge on this issue. That is a real problem.
Yes, yeah, I know that it's been spreading, the Zika virus has been spreading, we've even had some cases in Connecticut.
Yeah.
But would you recommend not to go to the Olympics or not go to South America?
Well, I think the Center for Disease Control on the issue of travel, that if you are a pregnant woman, that you should not go, or if you are planning to have children in the near future, they recommend it. And I will go with the science direction. I'm not going to make my own. I'm not a scientist.
Okay, now we're going to move into some lighter personal questions. I know some of our viewers like to know what it's like to be a congressman. Can you tell us what your average day is like?
Oh my gosh. Well, they're busy. The
Yeah.
days are busy. I get up very early. I get up about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I try to get ready for the day. I read the newspapers. I prepare for hearings,
Yeah.
and then go to those hearings. Always, committees that meet. I serve on the Appropriations Committee. One of these subcommittees is Labor, Health, Education, and Human Services, and the other is Agriculture. So all the issues that deal with really a large part of people's lives, whether their health care, their education, their job training, all the nutrition programs.
Yeah.
There are meetings, people come from the state, they come to visit from the district. We see teachers, you see students, you see doctors, all kinds of people who come want to tell you about what their interests are.
Yeah.
We vote the course of
Yeah.
that day. There's lots of going back and forth to vote, and usually finish up about 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Connecticut is very well known for its pizza. Some people may say your district is pizza heaven.
Yes.
Can you tell us what your favorite pizza
Well,
restaurant
I'm
is?
not going to do that. I would get in deep trouble
Yeah.
if I selected one over the other. I was born and raised on
Yeah.
Worcester Street in New Haven, so my heart is with the Worcester Street pizzas.
And that's going to be it for our episode of Raving Ryan. I'd like to thank Rosa for coming on.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank my brother Sam, my tech expert. And I'd like to thank Rosa scheduler Sam Carmody for scheduling this.
Okay.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you can now go to ravingryan.com to watch these. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, basically anything. Reporting for Raving Ryan, I'm Ryan Anastasio.